Namaste, welcome all to this Let Go series, Discovering Lasting Happiness. So, hope by the end of the series, we all discover the lasting happiness. So, sit comfortably. Let's start with the prayer. Back, neck, head in a straight line. Check that your posture is comfortable. Let's start the session with 3 rounds of Omkara. Each time you breathe in, breathe out, continue with the Om chanting. Inhale. Bring the palms together, Namaskara Mudra. Omkara and the Sahana Bhavatu prayer all together. Breathe in. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste, good evening to all once again. So I'll start with a brief introduction of what Raghuramji gave yesterday. Some of you were not able to attend yesterday. So this let go, what do we let go? Yeah, that is the question. So in this whole 1 week, we will learn what are the things that we need to let go and progress in our path, progress in our journey of yoga. So in Raghuramji's talk yesterday, he was telling about how the spiritual path, the sadhana that we have chosen, is not about renouncing this world and leaving all the day-to-day activities. It is about being in this world and then carrying on its activities, realizing your true nature. So that is what the whole spiritual path is all about. And he was also saying about how the sadhana that we are doing can be converted into a way of life. All of us have, most of us, I think, are yoga students and yoga teachers. Some of you are yoga teachers also. So how that do we just consider yoga as just that 1 hour of doing a practice in the mat, or what we learn in that 1 hour, do we carry it, to the next 23 hours and then we carry it forward so that it becomes a way of life? So we will see how to make this sadhana a way of life. How let go does not mean that you sit, you are letting go of everything, so you are feeling sad or dejected. No, letting go means letting go of all your ego, the anger, letting go of what are the burdens that you carry within yourself, the physical, the mental. Yeah, so that is what we are going to see in this 1 week of our lecture series, Shastri Memorial Series. And like Raghuramji was saying, Shastriji was a very highly evolved spiritual seeker, and he had mastered a lot of these Vedantic truths, Vedantic text also. And then he had very beautifully put it in very simple ways where a common man can understand. He used to give a lot of simple household example. One example which Raghuramji gave, I think, was about how Swami Vivekananda, when he was traveling in the villages, one of his school friends saw him, and then he thought, oh, maybe a big Swami, so he just said Namaste Swamiji and went ahead. But Swamiji really then recognized, oh, he is, I think I know him, he's from my school. Then he called him back, I think we are classmates or schoolmates, so how come you're, without further talking or this, you're just going away? So he said, come, let's have a cup of chai. So that is what spirituality is all about, connecting with people. So without taking much of the time, I'll start start with the first session of the day, in search of our true nature. So let's see what our true nature is. Yeah, hope you all can see the screen. So in search of our true nature.
Yes, Vijaya.
Sahanau Bunaktu, may we all nourish. So the first question in search of a true nature is, I think many of you must have heard this, who am I? Koham. Yeah, Nan Yar. Sri Ramana Maharishi beautifully, I think, searched this answer to this question of who am I. So he says that finding the source of I is very important. What is this I all about? He says that understand that and you will solve all the problems. Yeah, here I would like to quote from Dr. Paul Burton, Dr. Paul Brunton. He was a British journalist and he was also in a spiritual path and he had a lot of questions. And somebody told him, why don't you go to India? Because India is a land of spirituality. So maybe you will find your answer there. So while he was traveling around the country, different masters, he still was not satisfied with the answers he got. So somebody suggested, why don't you go to meet Sri Ramana Maharishi? And when he went and met Sri Ramana Maharishi, I believe he was sitting there in the satsang that when I will get audience with Sri Ramana Maharishi, thinking like that. And throughout the 2 hours, he was watching him. Ramana Maharishi throughout, he doesn't talk much in his satsangs. So I believe he was very silent, but the calmness, the joy that was there in his face, I believe that journalist got all his answers. So when Ramana, when his turn was there, to ask questions, he said, "No, I don't have any questions." So this is what it is. So if we find the source of the I, we will understand that, and you will solve all your problems. Now let us see what our true nature is. How do we identify ourselves? Yeah. So we normally identify ourselves. I'm an angry person. Yeah, I get very irritated very often. So do you identify yourself either with this positive emotion of love and joy, where love is tenderness, passion, joy is the excitement, yeah, happiness, or do you associate yourself with this negative emotion, anger, fear? How do we identify yourself? I think this is a question all of us have to ask ourselves. Maybe you can make a note of it and maybe write 1 or 2 points on this. How do we identify ourselves? So this is one aspect, whether we identify ourselves with our emotions, or there is this second aspect of silence. Are we identifying ourselves with this silence? We get a glimpse of the silence sometime, yeah, when we are in our yoga class and the teacher tells us, yeah, to relax in Shavasana, and she gives the relaxation. At the end of it, we feel that calmness and silence. So do we associate ourselves with that silent state? Right? Silence, maybe we just a fraction of a second that we are in that silent state. Again, we are back in these emotions governing our actions, our moods, and all that. So let's see how our day-to-day activities are. Because again, when we are trying to understand our true nature, it's also very important to see how our activities are. So in yoga, they say it's all about achara, ahara, vihara, achara, and vichara. So if you've been a yoga student, you should also know about all this. What is ahara, vihara, achara, vichara? Ahara is the food. Vihara is your exercise and other recreation activities that you do. Achara is the code of conduct, your habits. And vichara is the positive thinking. And in the yoga text, Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna beautifully says that in all this, there has to be a moderation if you have to progress in your yoga path. So that's a healthy lifestyle. So you need to follow a healthy lifestyle. And when we say the healthy lifestyle, our interactions also are with the world outside, yeah, and also within us also, yeah, within us. Some after the interaction with the world outside, we also think, contemplate, oh, why did I say this, or why did I react like this? Correct. So there the involvement of sense organs are involved. So here beautifully it says that there are two ways the sense organs act. One is prayers, that is indulgence, and the other one is Shreyas. This is a very beautiful concept which is brought about in the Katha Upanishad. Yeah, so here prayers is, see, we notice that all our sense organs are outgoing, correct? The sense of smell, hear, touch, taste. Yeah, we all always like to hear good things, yeah, taste good things. Yeah, so it's all our sense organs are outgoing. And is it that the outgoing sense organs trap us into something which is not good for us? Have you ever given a thought of it? Because here I would just like to give an example. Here, the animal kingdom, they say that in the animal kingdom, it is only one sense organ which is heightened. Yeah, in the fish, it is the sense of taste. So the whoever is wanting to catch the fish, he puts a food in the bait, and the fish smells that, and it is, yeah, it is caught. Smell. Sorry, the sense of smell is heightened in fish, so it is caught. So like that, every animal, it is only one sense organ which is heightened. Similarly, deer, I believe it is a sense of hearing which is heightened. So the hunter plays the flute or the nice soft music to lure the deer, and it is caught in a trap. So what to say of humans when all our sense organs are outgoing? So we should again examine, question ourselves whether we are into indulging is too much, or the self motivation is there saying, no, I think it looks attractive, but maybe no, it is not for me. I don't want to, have it as a long run in my day-to-day activities. So there, that is what Shreyas. So they say Shreyas and Prayas, there is very little of difference between them. So it is like, it looks good in the beginning, but in the long run, you find that, oh, it's not suiting me. It is not as per my taste. Whereas Shreyas, they say, is not very pleasant to look at, but maybe good for you in the long run. So these are certain things which you need to also keep in mind when you're doing your activities, when you're doing when the interaction with the world is there. So I hope my speed is okay. I'm not going too fast. So what is the observation here? When we know that all our sense organs are outgoing, so what is the observation? Yeah. So it says that happiness is short-lived. You agree with that? Because yeah, we might be happy for a moment, but do we again think of that happiness and keep smiling at ourselves or laughing at that happiness that we have had? We don't do that, right? But when we have, say, when we are in a sorrowful state or some sad situation, we keep repeating that situation in our mind. We keep having a recap of that, and then we are feeling sorrow. That keeps happening. But with happiness, it doesn't happen. So happiness is short-lived. They say there is always a shift between the happiness and sorrow. Yeah, there is a fluctuation. You get up in the morning with a resolve saying that, oh, it's a nice day today, the sun is up. Yeah, let me also be joyful. Yeah, let me also be cheerful throughout the day. But does it always happen? No, right? So, so this is what is the observation. We always look for new ways to end our sorrow or to look for new ways to be happy. I've just put sorrow here, but it can be the other way also. It says that joy is not in the objects that we are looking for, it is within us. So that is one, I think, reality which is there, and which is what, in search of a true nature, this is what we need to search. Whether the joy that we are looking for is in the objects outside or is within us. Are we joyful? Yeah, are we satisfied? Are we that santosha inside? Yeah, that is the question that we all need to ask. Yeah, if you all have any questions, you can note it down. At the end of the session, we will give time for a question answer. Okay, I see some raised hands. Please note your questions. We will have time for question answers. So what is the solution for this, all this? So they say the solution is in Vedantic knowledge. Why? Because it is a universal science. It guides us in Dukkha Nivaranam and Sukha Prapti. Dukkha Nivaranam is the reducing of sorrow, and Sukha Prapti, feeling that joy in whatever activity that we do. So why is it a universal science? Because it is, it carries certain values which we feel that yes, if we adopt those, if we are open to that knowledge, we can, it can guide us into Dukkha Nivaranam and Sukha Prapti. So what is this path of Vedantic knowledge? When we say Vedantic knowledge, what is this path of Vedantic knowledge? So it says that do Atma Pariksha and do Sukha Dukkha Pariksha. So what is Atma Pariksha? Atma is the self within us. So it says that do the self examination. Pariksha means examination. So here it says that do Atma Pariksha, examine yourself, yeah, in different situations, in different emotions that we are governed by. And then it says do Sukha Dukkha Pariksha. So what happens when we do Atma Pariksha? It says that we discover our true nature. And when we discover our true nature, it helps us to come out of sorrow. Yeah, again, Sri Krishna beautifully says that yoga is a, helps you to reduce your sorrow. He says that when happens, when you follow moderation in all our activities. Yuktahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. He says yoga helps in the destroyer of sorrow or pain. When that happens, only when we discover our true nature. And how do we know what is our true nature? So what is it? What are the steps that is involved in that Atma Pariksha? Yeah, it says that two things. One is that riches can give comforts, but not lasting happiness. So the path is for Shashvata Sukha, is the eternal happiness, the knowledge. And how do we get this eternal happiness? By knowledge of the self. And here again, there is a beautiful story in Brihadaranya Upanishad, where sage Yajnavalkya wants to give up his activities and then go into doing further sadhana of realizing the self. So he says that whatever he has is comforts, wealth, and all that. He has two wives. One is Katyayani and Maitreyi. So he wants to distribute his wealth to both the wives. So Katyayani is very happy, saying that, "Oh, I'm getting my share of wealth." But when he goes to Maitreyi and tells her that, I'm wanting to further go in my path of self-realization. So I want to give away half my property, so dividing into half. So she asks this question, whether can riches give me that happiness? So he says, no, riches can't give you, it can give you comfort, but not lasting happiness. And what he says, it is the knowledge of the self is what is going to give us the lasting happiness. And how do we get that? What is this knowledge of the self? How does a self-examination start? It says become a sadhaka. So you have to become a sadhaka. So like yesterday how Raghuramji was saying, becoming a sadhaka, a spiritual sadhaka, doesn't mean that you have to leave everything. You are there doing all your activities, but at the same time realizing that, yes, I am in this path journey of discovering myself. So what is it all about? Yeah, and it's very important that we learn under a competent teacher. That is very important because the teaching here, it is not just a teaching where you're just listening to the teacher and then trying to understand. The knowledge of the teacher also is very important. Has he understood that knowledge of the self? What is that self? That is very, very important. So it's very important that we learn under a competent teacher. And when we do this self-examination, what happens? It says that we gain mastery over our indriyas. Yeah, so we have seen that all our indriyas, the sense organs, indriyas are the sense organs, are all outgoing, correct? And it can land us in trouble. And we have seen, I think, in history in the last past few decades, I think, where top industrialists have been caught for not being transparent, for hiding, yeah, so like that. So why then all this? So here, what happens? A beautiful picture again, this chariot, which shows that, yeah, so the horses are the sense organs, and it is horses will lead us to whichever path, but the reins are the mind. It says that the charioteer is the intellect. So intellect is much more stronger than the mind. If the charioteer leaves the reins loose, what happens? The horses can take us anywhere, and we are not going in the path that we want. Yeah, so it's very important that we realize that the intellect, the charioteer, is much more stronger than the reins, stronger than the mind. The intellect guides the mind. Yeah, so chariot is the body where we are saying, and The self, who is there is always somebody who is behind all the activities that we do, right? So they say the self within us is the Atman that we realize when we progress, when we start the self examination. And here, the self examination we start, so it is a very long journey. It doesn't mean that you get the knowledge overnight. You have to be patient in your path of discovering the self. So yes, there are certain few who get that knowledge, very fast. Like see, Nachiketa, we saw the Katha Upanishad also, right? Where we saw the Shreyas and Preyas. Nachiketa, as a young boy, he saw that how his father, after a yagna, was giving away all the old and sick cows. And he was not very happy with that. And he was asking his father, how do I, why are you giving away all this? To whom will you give me? The father says, I'll give you to the Lord of Death. So Nachiketa takes it very seriously and he goes searching of Lord of Death. And Yama is seeing that sorry, such a young boy, why does he want to know about all this? What happens after death? What is the knowledge by which, we don't have to know anything? Why does this small boy? So he tempts him with uh, all the comforts, material comforts, everything, riches. But this boy is not perturbed. He says, no, I want to realize the self. So you let me know what is Atman. Yeah, but what is it? What after death? So all that the little boy wants to know. So the journey can be like a Nachiketa where you are very strong, you have that willpower saying that no, the riches, the comforts are not going to disturb me, or you're in your path where you have that comfort because you have to support your family and this, but still, because you have understood, got a liking to the subject, you are still in the path wanting to know a little more of it. So, hope these three are clear. Become a sadhaka, learn under a competent teacher, and gain mastery over your indriyas. So, what happens in the progress? Yeah, we have become a sadhaka now. So, what is the progress in our path? So, it says that all the desires are overcome. Again, desires are the one which you know leads us, brings our downfall. Again, a very beautiful shloka in the Bhagavad Gita. It says that dhyayato vishayan punsah sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamah kamat krodho bijayate, it goes. So it says that because of desire, we want to get possess that object, but when we don't get it, we are irritated, we become angry, don't want to see reason, and then there is a downfall. So when we progress in this path of spiritual knowledge, what it says, all the desires, we are satisfied within ourselves. When we are satisfied within ourselves, the desire to have more and more is not there. They say, the world has plenty for every man's need, but not for a single man's greed. Yeah, so that is what happens in our progress. That all the doubts are clear. Yeah, man, in our progress we have a lot of doubts. What is this? They say let go. What to let go? Yeah, a lot of doubts. They say all the doubts are clear. And then the progress also happens that we feel that oh, we are working. Oh, I have to support my family. I have to do this. I have to do that. We carry a lot of burden while doing our work. So it says that we do our work, but then the burden of working drops off. When that drops off, what happens? You're doing all the activities with that cheerfulness, with that joy within. Yeah, so that is what happens when the burden of work drops off. And when all these happens, what happens? You get a glimpse of the self. Again, recognize the Atmasthiti. Atmasthiti is the self within. You get a glimpse of the self within. So, what is the self? They say the self is the Brahman. Nigruhitam mana eva nirbhayam Brahma. Mind is the Brahman, which is full of ananda, which is full of joy. Shokam tarati atmavid iti. So one who has realized the self overcomes grief. Yeah, very beautiful. So all of us have that fear, right? Fear of what? Oh, fear that, oh, will I not get this? Will I not be able to do that? But it says that once you realize what is that self, yeah, all the grief, you're realizing that you're overcoming the grief, your fear slowly starts reducing. So what is this Brahman? What are the qualities of that Atman or the Brahman? It says Anando Brahme Tivyajana It is from the Panchakosha Viveka, saying that Ananda is the source. We are all made up of this stuff called Ananda, which is the pure bliss. So Ananda is there within us. So that is what the realization we get. In Mandukya Upanishad, again, it says that Nanta Prajnam na Bahish Prajnam. So it says that we are always thinking about the outside world, the inside world, we are bound between that. So everything is dropped off, he says. So again, here a beautiful story of King Janaka. I believe King Janaka, one day, King Janaka was supposed to be a very scholarly king. Yeah, he was also known as the Raja Rishi. Yeah, I believe one day he had a dream that he was fighting a war, fighting a battle with an enemy, and all the soldiers were getting defeated. He was getting defeated, and he was trying to run away. And what happens? In the process, he feels that he has lost everything. He is hungry, he is tired, he is searching for food. Yeah, and then suddenly he is seeing that some wild boars are coming to attack him, and suddenly he wakes up. So then he realizes, oh, was it true? Was the dream true? Or now that I am in my own bed, is this true? Yeah, so he says that, and it's a beautiful dialogue with Ashtavakra that he has, which comes in Ashtavakra Gita, which he says that you are neither the king nor what you saw in the dream. You are not. You are much more than that. You are that Brahman. So here he says that Yan Manasanam Manute. Yeah, that which cannot be thought by the mind, yan manasana manute, which you can't think of. Can the mind think of that we are that bliss state? No, you need to go higher up. So that's what it says. And Sri Shankara says, Chidananda Rupaha, you are that bliss, you are that Ananda. So these are the qualities of Brahman. So in the progress, you will notice that yes, you are realizing, you are getting a glimpse of all this. So once you get a glimpse of all this, what happens? The Shraddha is there and you want to progress in the path. Yeah, so it says that serenity, you can read that. So you need to peace. Is the peace which you feel is the eye of storm. Whatever be the situation outside, are you feeling that peace? That is what is important. Thank you. So hope in search of true nature, you all got an idea of how the path of in search of true nature has to be. So sit back, just contemplate on what all you have heard. If you have any questions, you can always make a note of it. Now we have the second part of the second lecture, which is we saw Atma Pariksha. I talked about what Atma Pariksha is all about. The next is the Sukha Dukkha Pariksha. So the next presentation is by Prabha Krishna on Dukkha Pariksha. So sit back and enjoy the Dukkha Pariksha.
Good evening to all of you. A very warm welcome to everyone and namaste to Raghuramji. Thanks to Vijaya, we have got a beautiful understanding of Atma Pariksha, and let us now look on to the Sukha Dukkha Pariksha, where I would be talking about Dukkha Pariksha. So just let me just share the screen. Please wait. So hope all of you are able to see the screen. So Dukkha Pariksha is what I'm going to be talking about today. So Shastriji in his book has talked about Chandogya Upanishad, where Sanat Kumara is talking to his student Narada, and where he tells about like what is happiness, what he thinks about happiness in Chandogya Upanishad. So Yada vai sukham labate karoti. So this is very interesting because we understand like what is happiness. We involve in any activity which gives us happiness. So to say exactly, we will never get involved in any activity which doesn't give us happiness, isn't it? So this is a wonderful, we all know this. So Chandogya Upanishad very beautifully talks about where the teacher tells the student, Na sukam labdva karoti. That is, we will not venture anything which does not give me sukha. So this also is very important. For example, you would even see a child, the child would not do anything which does not give him happiness or give him contentment. And the child does that which does not give him happiness, he ends up either being very sad or sorrowful or with other emotions. So this is a very important thing again to make us understand that we will never venture or do anything sincerely which does not give me sukha. Sukhameva labdva karoti. By getting happiness, one does one's work or duty. So this, I think with the sentence itself, you were able to understand. Sukham tveva vijikyaasita vyamiti. That is, now let us try to understand the nature of this happiness. So, oh Lord, help me to examine what is this sukha dukkha. So this is, this is the teacher to student conversation, what was there in Chandogya Upanishad. In Taittiriya Upanishad, the student, it's a conversation between the teacher and the student. The teacher again asks the student, I want you to examine the sukha dukkha. So the student says, if for example, if your teacher asks you, okay, tell me what is sukha dukkha, you would say, Arey, this is just, by hat ka khel hai, what do you want me to say? It is just happiness. Happiness is everywhere. Whenever I do things which makes me happy, it's happy. I listen to music, it keeps me happy. I play something which I like. I cook something. Maybe I enjoy cooking. I enjoy being part of volunteering work. It makes me happy. I'm with family members. I'm having a meal, laughing, and with going for a vacation. It keeps me happy. My five senses are there in contact with with the sense objects, so which gives me pleasure, which gives me happiness. So this is the student says it. This is nothing big about it. These all things gives me happiness, and if I don't get all of this, then it gives me sorrow. So it's a very simple factor. So that's what the student says. So then the teacher asks, see, you are telling what all are bringing you happiness, but I want you to tell me what is your chitta sthiti, what is your state of your mind when you are in sukha. So when you are happy, what is the state of your mind? When you are sad, when you are suffering, what is the state of your mind? So this is what I want you to tell me. What is the state of your mind? What is your psychological posture? So what kind of posture do you develop when you are happy? When you are sad, as you see in the picture itself, you could see when you are happy itself, what kind of posture we develop. And when you are depressed, when you are suffering, even from the light of your eyes itself, it shows that you are suffering. There is a state of sorrowness there. So dukkha pariksha. So what I am going to be talking about that, because there the teacher tells. So now I want you to examine. I want you to understand. What is sukha dukkha? What is the state of your mind? What is the psychological posture? I want you to understand, examine, analyze it, and then come back to it. So dukkha pariksha, a very, very interesting way, which I found very interesting while I was preparing the slide itself, is what is the state of mind when we are in suffering? So what happens? So when we do not get something, for example, just before starting this session itself, there was so much of anxiety in my mind. So that is the state of my mind. I could feel my heart rate going higher. I could feel my palms, feeling cold. So there is a kind of an anxiety feeling. So sometimes what happens, there is an insecurity. So you find that, okay, there is a lot of insecurity either in the form of financial way, or there is a deep fear, there is a bhaya there is something which has happened in your life. There is some fear in your mind. So the fear brings about uncertainty to take risks, to do some things, to come forward, to do so many things. So that fear stops us from doing something. That leads us to suffering. The karma there, the desire there, we want so many things, and we still we get that, and then immediately we start looking for some other thing. I remember my son wanting to get a Lego car. The moment the Lego car comes, he goes to Amazon and say, can I get another car? So it shifts, it keeps shifting, and then you feel sad that you're not able to satisfy your desire. You're attracted towards something. there is raga there. So there is, see, always in our life we see that there is always attraction towards something. So when we either a repulsion, that is, you do not like that, I hate it, or you like it so much. So each even the liking and the disliking brings about dukkha. So, and even that you do not like the characteristics of a person, that also brings about a lot of suffering in our mind, a lot of emotions running around in our mind. And the jealousy factor, so the jealousy factor itself is because of the basic root of being uncertain, being insecure, being having an inferiority complex. And so that brings about jealousy because the other person is having things which you don't have. And that also brings about a lot of different thoughts in your mind. The anger also is all about the thoughts in the mind, and the way we react is in the form of anger. So the reaction is in the form of anger, but there are thoughts of unexpected. You are expecting some things and you're not able to get that expectations. You are wanting something and you're not able to get it, and that brings about anger. So there is all these emotions, because of the anger, because of the raga, dvesha, bhaya, uncertainty, it brings about so many thoughts in the mind, the emotions, feelings in the mind, and that brings about agitations. So in Yoga Vishishta, they say that the chitta, that the state of your mind, that the subconscious mind is throbbing with prana. And when there is so many thoughts running in the mind, there is the activity of the mind is also at higher speed. And that time, the speed of the mind is very high, and you would find that, for example, when you are angry with over something or over someone, if you observe your breath itself, the breath itself is so fast. And if you take a time to observe your state of your mind, you would find that there is so many thoughts coming, jumbling there in the mind level. So that is where the Shastriji said that the conclusion is dukkha is speed, dukkha is vega. So the agitations, the violence inside itself brings about suffering. So a very beautiful, quote from Bhagavad Gita: "Shaknoti haiva yah sudam praksharira vimokshanat kama krododbhavam vegam sayukta sasukhi naraha." See, one who is able to withstand the impulse of the lust, anger before death is a yogi and a happy person. So if you're faced with some situation and we are able to restrain or withstand this impulse to be angry, withstand the impulse to react, then that person is a happy person. Because this person is able to drop the speed because of all the background of anger, uncertainty, kama, krodha, fear, jealousy, matsarya, so many things are happening in this person's mind. But if this person is able to control or restrain or observe what's happening in the mind level, that person is a happy person. Such a wonderful, insight from Bhagavad Gita. I really like this quote here. So the focusing, the next aspect of the problem of dukkha, that is the first we saw is vega, the speed in the mind level, the agitations in the mind level. The next one is focusing, and you all be wondering, what is the problem with focusing? So the focus ekagrata becomes the cause only when we overdo. See, for example, when you are concentrating on something, you have a project at office level, or you are doing something and you are focusing, a complete focus is there. So that is not a problem. The problem arises when we start overdoing it, when we start putting too much attention to our focus level, that we sometimes start getting irritated. There is so much of agitation starts coming in the mind level. There is an urge to overperform. So we feel that, okay, I need to do this, I have to do it, it has to be perfect. The perfection has to be there. Because why? Because you have put an image to yourself that I need to do this. There is so much of attention to details. And even then, even for some people, rather than they focusing on external things, we also sometimes dwell on thoughts. So we sometimes focus on thoughts. So there are so many things which are happening to our mind. For example, a WhatsApp message comes to us, and and something rash has been written by this person, and immediately observe what's all happening in your mind, and your mind level goes on to so many things, and you start focusing only on all the negativities. So like Vijaya beautifully says that when you are happy, we do not dwell on it for a long time, but when we are in a sorrow state, a state of sorrow, we focus a lot on these negative thoughts. The next, the reason is, the enthusiasm. So there is so much of enthusiasm sometimes we have that we excessively focus. So that excessive focus, sorry, that excessive focus itself brings about, a lot of agitations in the mind. So excessive enthusiasm also, and there is a desire for always, that I need to get fame, I need to get that encouragement, appreciation from my seniors. So all these things itself brings about so many, distractions to us, and that they bring about, excessive focusing. So there is always attachment to many things. We get attached to thoughts, we get attached to the perfectionism, attached to the details. So these all are the important, the reasons why excessive or the ekagrata becomes a cause of dukkha. So this is called as a coning phase, called as one pointedness. That is, we are completely in a point. So that I will talk about it in the next slide. So what happens is when we excessively focus, we also find sometimes that during the day, we feel very fatigued, we are burdened. Sometimes you find that I feel so burdened, Prabha. I'm very fatigued. I have done so many things. I have put attention to so many things. I have done it, but I have not received the, what I'm supposed to be receiving, the expectations from others, I have not. So many, this focus results in a lot of different emotions in our mind, and that burdens us completely. So that's why Shastriji has very beautifully talked about this concept called coning. So as you would have seen that in a cone, there is one point which is absolutely pointed and another place which is absolutely wide. So in the pointed phase, for example, if you think of a situation in a pointed phase, there is always, when you are so focused on a particular thing, when you are absolutely, putting attention, overly performing, trying to the urge to overperform, we are sometimes having a very shrunk attitude. There is a kind of a narrowed way. We feel there is a burdening happening there. But in the opposite way, when you find that you are focusing on you are focusing, but in a sense of defocus. So, it's a combination of focus with defocusing. It's a very confusing way to understand for all of you. So I hope I'm able to convey it in an easier way. So for example, in Jyoti Trataka itself, in the third stage, you would have observed that you are gazing at the flame, but you're also having a defocused look at the flame. So that there is a third stage. That is, there is a kind of a relaxed attitude at the flame, but you are still doing the work. So that is the state of expansiveness. So you feel that there is no load. You are preparing something for your office. There is a presentation. You are concentrating, but you're not, you're not concentrating in such a level that it is burdening you. But you feel you are enjoying each and every moment. You are enjoying the diffuse state, and you feel lighter. Instead of feeling the heaviness, there is lightness. And such a person, with an expansive state, is in a state of all pervasiveness. That is in a state of vistarata. And a person who's in the coning phase, that is excessive focus, excessive ekagrata, is in the state of constriction. There is sankochita. And this brings about dukkha. And the expansive state brings about sukha. So what are the solutions to overcome dukkha? So you understood the main 2 points here. That is a point of excessive focusing and the vega, that is the speed. But now you've understood it, but you need also the solution, isn't it? So how do I bring about practical solutions in my life? So this is what you need to have takeaway after this session. So now you all know that dukkha is agitated or a focused state of mind, and both need to be dissolved to lead us to liberation. And Yoga Vashishta, there is one quote there says this: Anasteva hi nirvanam dukkhamasta parigraha. That is, attachment, focusing is suffering. Detachment, diffusion leads to liberation. So we need to be dissolving this agitation of the mind. We need to be able to dissolve this focusing state of mind and come to a defocused state. And what can you do? You need to replace. So what do you replace? Speed with slowness. So it's a, see, as when you look at it, it might find, okay, it's very easy, but it's not a very easy task. So how you are asking the driver to, to drive very, very slowly. The driver is going very fast, and suddenly you say, come on, in a highway, the road is beautifully empty. And then the driver or you get tempted, come on, let me just speed up. And you are speeding up. And suddenly your spouse or your children says, why don't you just slow down and go in a very slow pace? Do you think you would enjoy that? You would find yourself very, very agitated. Why should I slow down? So even now you might think that, okay, why should I slow down? So we would understand now. You understood now the reasons of speed. So how do we slow down? We will try to understand. And how can we replace coning with, what do we replace it with? Expand. So that also we would try to understand in the next slide. So what is slowness? So we are replaced wherever we are fast with slowness. So how do we replace it? First of all, we need awareness. So how the awareness is built up only by practicing yoga, by having that open-mindedness to understand that, hey, I am actually my thoughts are jumbled up. There is a lot of vega, there is speed in my mind. I need to replace it with slowness. And where all you could replace it with. So many places you could replace it with. Talking slowly. It's a very, not a very easy thing. When I was preparing itself, I was also thinking, yeah, I have to learn to talk slowly. So talking slowly, walking slowly. There is always a rush that, okay, let me walk. Okay, I have to walk fast, because if I walk fast, I'm improving my cardio stamina, I'm improving my health. But sometimes walking slowly, enjoying the nature, becoming aware of your breath while walking itself is called as a walking meditation. When you do that, and when you come back home, you will find a sense of calmness. Eating slowly. So there is a hurry always, you want to either, in the dining table, so we have a tendency to keep the mobile with us, the WhatsApp messages, and we start eating, we are not even aware. And we sometimes eat very fast. So we can replace eating fast by eating slowly. Thinking slowly. So whenever you find that your thoughts are going, haywire, some situations are right in front of you, a lot of external situation, people, the situations, everything, and it is make your thoughts are jumbling up, and you find your mind going different places. Even now, while I am talking, you will be going very fast. So think slowly, react slowly. If you're getting anger, get angry slowly. Now, Dr. Nagaratna always says that. So when you feel like lashing out, you try to immediately pause. Maybe you can get angry slowly. And automatically what happens, you start subsiding. Your anger and emotion itself subsides. We replace speed with slowness and a relaxed approach. So that is where we could consciously try our best. And we do this consciously, gradually, wherever possible, every day, maybe at least once we could try in some area, and then it will result in less of dukkha. So the slowness is such an important thing. So let go, udasina bhava, that is, how do we replace coning now? So when you are focusing excessively, what can you do? So do the activity effortlessly. So this is very important for all of us, because all of us are doing in some activity or the other. Either it could be, at work level, house level, as a duty level, to having different roles in your life. But whatever you do, try to do it in an effortless manner rather than, focusing extensively, which burdens. Consciously leave the attachment on focus. So that we tend to have a detachment attitude. That is, we don't excessively focus on details and consciously become aware, immediately become aware. Am I being too much here, putting too much, tension in this? Can I slowly, step back and detach myself? Develop a let go attitude, udasina bhava. This is a very wonderful concept which really hits me very, very much, because I have been trying to follow this, the moment I have been hearing Raghuramji itself. It's not a very difficult, easy thing, but it is possible for all of us. So having an attitude of, no, of detach, you're focusing, but in a defocused manner. That is, you're not putting too much value on negative thoughts. You're trying to undervalue those negative thoughts. We are not putting too much attachment on the perfectionism, but we are also focused and doing it effortless. So that is a let go attitude we need to kind of develop to come out of dukkha. We replace the negative thinking to positivity. The Patanjali Sutras talks about pratipaksha bhavanam, and the opposing thought. That is, whenever we have anger thoughts or jealousy thoughts or fear or uncertainty thoughts, immediately if we replace it with positivity, you would find that we are in a much more expansive state rather than feeling burdened. That is, from constriction, one pointedness, we move on to diffusion, expansive state of mind. So this is a concept, just like in the picture where the butterflies suddenly, released, they are all cocooned in a dabba there, and excessive focusing has happening in the dabba. The butterfly feels breathless, feels suffocated. There is so much of suffocation in that butterfly. But the moment the butterfly, the lid of the dabba is open, there is such a release. That is what you would feel when you do the activity for effortlessly, when you develop a let go attitude. So questions we may all ask, one by one, you might all be thinking in your mind. So many questions would be arising in your mind. I'm sure about it. So what is the first question we might think about? Situations are driving me to be fast and focused. How can I control it? This is a very important question, because when I was framing this question itself, I was thinking what all questions have arisen in me because I asked Raghuramji, what can I do? I have morning hundreds of things. I have to be fast, but how can I control it? I can't control it. So this is one question which we always, ponder upon. I have multiple tasks to be done in a day. How can I not be fast? So the speed of the mind, the speed of the task, we think that we need to do things very, very fast because we have put in our mind one activity of the other. This is what we need to do. This is what we will do. This is what we will do. Either we are in that mode, or whether we don't do at all any activity. So either we are in both the modes. So, but how
Hello. I think looks like Prabha's power has gone. So till she connects, I will continue with from where she has left. There's one more slide. I think she would have finished after that. So just bear with us. You can just contemplate on whatever has been discussed so far. Hope you all can hear me. Okay. I think she is, since she is sharing the screen, it is not allowing me to share the screen. Yeah, since you can hear me, I will continue from where she has left because it is not allowing me to share the screen. Okay, so she was in the question. Yeah, so here Prabha was in the question where she said that I have so many things to do, activities to do. So how can I not be fast? Correct. So I think she was there. Then it says that I'm stimulated by people around me to react. Yeah, the situation around me ensures that I have to respond or react. I react to what is happening outside. So how can I control that? So these are, I think, some of the questions that we normally have. So it says that, so break the belief. It says that the next slide, it says that mind is very strong. It says that it is faster than the speed of the wind. Manas chanchalam hi Krishna, he says. Yeah, Arjuna asked Krishna, mind is so fast, so powerful. How do I control it? How do I master my mind? So he says that mind has brilliant capacity, and it breaks the belief that external situations are driving me to react. Yeah, see, it's not that, see, some situation happens. Now, even the corona, all of us are in the corona times, right? 2020 has been right from, I think, February end. I think we heard that, yes, corona is there in China and it is spread. And last 5 months, we have been at home, working from home, lockdown mode. So, but the reaction to that corona is different with different people. Correct. So, similarly with that situation also, each of us react in a different way. So, it says that, beautiful quotation by Adi Shankara, Kartum akartum anyata kartum shakyam. He says that to do or not to do, or to do it differently, all of us have a choice. So we don't have to be, doing it the same way. We have seen our maybe parents, elders doing it in certain way, but now we have known things, how we can, do things efficiently. So we can always change the way we are doing things. So he says that to do, not to do, or to do it differently. Yeah, so all of us have that freedom, he says. So let us all, exercise this freedom in us. So this is, yeah, the doing, the freedom to do, the freedom not to do, and to do it differently. Yeah, I hope this is very clear and easy to understand. So what we have to learn to do now, Prabha said, reduce the speed, reduce the thoughts in the mind. So how can we do it? By learning to let go. When we learn to let go, you discover that lasting happiness. So that was the 2 slides that she had. So thank you all. So any questions? Now we will have Raghuramji sum up the whole thing. Raghuramji, can you unmute yourself and your video on? So that he will give a this of both our presentation and overall picture, and then you can put your questions in chat. Yes, Raghuramji.
I think after the questions, I'll give the summation, including
after the questions, is it? Okay, fine. Yeah, okay.
All the best.
So, yeah, I'll just check if there are any questions. Till now, there have not been any questions come so far. But anyway, like Prabha had pointed out, the questions, like, like now that in the lockdown, we are doing all the activities, correct? Whether housework or the other work that we are doing, everything we have to do. So how do we slow down? Yeah, we are always thinking, oh, I have to do this, I have to do this. There is so much of unending work. So how do we slow down now in this condition?
Actually, a very interesting way that Shastriji has summed up the whole life in these two different areas. One thing is that speed and the focus. Speed he calls it as, or Vedanta calls it as Vega, and then focusing is the way that it is the second thing. And all that what we need to do is to see that Naidhanyata and Vistarata. Naidhanyata is slowness, Vistarata is expansiveness. And these two are both mental postures that we need to take. So with all these conditions of activities that we are doing, if you closely watch in all these activities, the activity is slow anyway, but compared to the activity, the way that mind is rushing is almost 100 times more than that. Like the way that I'm doing one work, I'm already thinking of the second work. I'm already thinking of the third work. That means basically it is not the problem of the work outside, but 100 times more faster is the mind. And even if you take the mind 1,000 times faster, can you achieve anything? That was a simple answer question that Shastriji asked. So don't achieve anything. In fact, on the other hand, if you are doing a work and but your mind, you are thinking of the 10th work you are already supposed to be doing it, then what happens is that the work that you are doing suffers inefficiency because you are not there. You are already in the 10th work. And then further ahead, because that you are 10th work, you are looking at the first work that you are there, naturally you develop the anxiety within you. So therefore, if you are doing a work, be in that work, because the speed is not in the objective world outside, the speed is in the mind. The speed is in our mind, in our thinking. In fact, how many times I see that when I'm talking, they don't listen to what I'm talking. They already have an idea and then they want to talk. And they're in a hurry to talk. They're in a hurry to present. I say, come on, slow down. Don't be in a hurry. Their mind is speed. So therefore, basically, if you are trying to be in the present, that's a big slowing down aspect that has taken place in the mind. While doing an activity, be 100% of the activity and don't be into the next kind of an activity. You organized in a sequence all these activities to be done, depending upon the priority. Keep doing it. But then your mind should be always the activity that you are perceiving. And that brings about nidhanyata, slowness. Especially in the COVID situation, you said very clearly in the lockdown situation, we have to do so many activities. I know that generally with our experience, fairly, what is the time that each activity takes up? I allot that time. That's all. Once I allot that time, and then now I'm totally in the work that I'm doing, I'm not in a hurry. So the speed is always belong to the mind. Second thing is expansiveness, Vastartha. See, the present day education system has trained us so much into focus all the time. Necessary, unnecessary, we keep focusing. Any small thing that we see, we do, immediately we focus. Please use the discrimination where to focus, where you don't have to focus. When you look at that way, 70-80% of the times you don't really have to focus. The activity is going on. It's all set. You don't have to focus that. So therefore, it is easy for us to see, recognize this thing, and then the rest of it, you do it with an expansiveness. That is the idea of cone that Shastriji presented. An activity, when we put ourselves too much on that, then coning takes place. And necessary, unnecessary, we keep focusing, coning on that. And this is where we get into the mystic kind, we get into the misery. And every focus brings about headache. Every focus brings about a rigidity within you. So therefore, come out of it. Recognize that few activities that you need to focus. Rest of it we don't have to focus. So Vistarata, Nidhanyata. These are the two aspects that help us to come out of it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Raghuramji. Yeah, there is somebody who is asking that when we let go, you say let go, but aren't we responsible for our family and the society?
Oh.
So what do we let go?
There is a very nice question, idea that is there. Expansive means openness. Yeah, very good. Very nice point. I don't know who is that. Read me. And that is somebody who's
Pushpa. Yeah, Pushpa. She says that just wanted to know that after let go things, so aren't we responsible for a family? And somebody has asked, what do we let go?
Yeah.
So I think both are similar questions.
Right. So actually we let go the attachment in our mind. We don't let go the work. What we do is according to this situation of the world outside. And this is what is called as Vastusthiti. I do the thing according to the Vastusthiti, but I let go the concern in my mind for 2-3 reasons. One reason is that I'm not the only person who is responsible for any activity. There are so many other factors which are also involved in that. Like for example, I want to go somewhere, it also has to happen. Rain should not be there. In Bangalore, you can't expect that. Or this thing has to come like that, that thing has to happen like that. So there are few things that are supposed to coordinate. I wanted to have a meeting and then I want so many people to come, but then people do not come. And it is that time that we are into jittery. So that is what we need to let go, saying that this is what the Yoga Vasishtha says, ta antastarayeva tabir vyavaharanapi. Vyavahara, whatever that you do, you just allow it to happen meticulously. Antashitarataya. That means inside that you let go. Inside you let go. So then what happens is that you don't compromise on performance outside. You do the performance, you go outside. But only thing is, immediately what happens is that when outside you let go, that means to say, if somebody has to come, he did not come in time and all that. Immediately our mind has a capacity to compassionately look at it. That's what is let go, saying that maybe he has some difficulty, maybe he is caught up in traffic, maybe it is difficult for him to come at this point of time. So let me wait for some more time. See, you give a long rope for that person or you give consideration for that person. This is what is the idea of let go. Particularly when you are letting go from the point of view of Vedanta, it does not make you callous. That is not the idea. And in fact, Vedanta is for somebody who is already sensitive to these issues. And then only that we need to go further up. These are the people who suffer. Look at Arjuna. Arjuna was sensitive and Arjuna was concerned about it. And then Krishna, whatever that suggestion he has given, is to let go. The idea is that worry about his own people that he's going to kill and all those things. That was what he let go that. Because that war has come after taking all those considerations. Now it doesn't worth to have that kind of a concern about that. This is what is the idea of let go. And what is that? Another question? What should be?
It says that world is going so fast.
Yeah.
To reduce speed means to slow down the thought process or slow down action or both.
No. Whatever the way that the outside world moves, we have to move along with that. But the speed inside the mind, that we need to curtail. It is inside the mind, the speed that we need to curtail. See, a lot of times people see that when they are talking, the talk is simple, but then the amount of speed inside makes the words jumbled up. So it is the inside speed which is causing the problem. It's always in the mind. It's not in the world outside, it's in the mind. That's why it is said that what is the difference between a realized soul and an ordinary person? Absolutely, in the world, there is no difference at all. But inside the mind, there is a hell of a lot of difference, because an ordinary person is racing and racing in his mind. A realized person is living in the life. That's the only thing. In fact, it is also, I can see that this kind of expression comes in the, when you have speed inside, when you don't have speed inside, you say that, okay, let's have food. But when you have speed inside, let's finish food. A simple expression shows that your mind is fast. I said, no, I'm not here to finish food. I'm trying to participate in eating. Let's eat. This we need to bring about.
Okay, thank you, Raghuramji. So it says that somebody is asking whether yoga and meditation allow us to let go. Will it help us to let go?
Yoga has two components, Abhyasa, Vairagya. Abhyasa is the discipline, but Vairagya is let go. In fact, if you are Shavasana, if you look at Shavasana, observe that you will see that. When in Shavasana and deep relaxation technique, the teacher will give instructions. Relax your calf muscle, relax your thigh muscle. What are you doing? Actually, you are holding them from inside, and that hold you are letting go. Therefore, the body relaxes. The body relaxes. So every time that you do, a lot of time people, what they do is they give importance to all the postures, bend, twist, this, that, and that they feel is the calorie burner. But then when it comes Shavasana, they say, let's finish Shavasana in 2 minutes. I think Shavasana is the most important aspect of it, where you practice this let go deep inside, much deep inside. That's the idea we need to get into.
It says, what should be exercised to take Sukha and Dukkha equally? Can you please explain?
Sukha and Dukkha, what happens is that they come to us. It's not that we want Dukkha or we want Sukha. Obviously, we want Sukha, therefore that we are trying to do the Sukha. But then in the name of Sukha, Dukkha happens. So whenever that kind of it turns itself into Dukkha, then immediately you see that is there a point where this naturally ends and then Sukha starts. This is only for a short period of time that I have Dukkha, but otherwise Sukha starts. Like for example, I'm traveling. And traveling brings about so much of discomfort for me. At that time, the way that I look at it, is this travel going to be for a limited period of time? 1 or 2, one or 2 days that I travel? And then, yeah, I can take up that much. Then I just let it go, let it happen. And then afterwards that I become normal. This is what we need to do. Similarly, Sukha, when it comes, then not only that we enjoy that Sukha, but we see that we are not trying to hold on to that Sukha. We allow that Sukha to be in its natural way. As long as it stays and then it goes away, you will be able to say, Alvida, let go, that also. So that what happens is that the power of the Dukkha that comes is not very, very violent. If you are trying as strongly as you hold on to Sukha, Dukkha experience is so strong and you have enhanced that Dukkha experience. So therefore let go.
So is expansiveness the same as openness?
Yeah, it's absolutely true. In fact, that's a very beautiful word. In every aspect, keep yourself to be open. But there is one caution that Shastri always used to give, saying that don't show others that you have that openness. Others take advantage of you.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't allow any Vedantic principle to be misused by the others.
Okay. Yeah, this lady says that how to control self in a situation where she feels that the others are doing wrong. So how do we control ourselves in
See,
such situation?
yeah, there is a bigger learning about this, and that is, first of all, that I need to look into, am I in a position to educate somebody, to give a knowledge to somebody? Because that, it is called as the adhikaritva. If I don't have that, I should not go to attempt that. And then he will learn himself or she will learn herself. We are not here to change the world. We are here to see that we live right way so that the nature follows it. Nature follows it. The people follow it. They only anukarana matrameva, by observing us, by living that, by this thing, aping our idea, then they will grow. You create an ambience for that. That's the idea.
Says that last question,
Yeah.
that while relaxing in Shavasana, the mind keeps going to the body part where there is pain or stiffness. So how do you handle that?
Yeah, in fact, when mind goes to the part of the body which is in pain, that is where you try to give the suggestion of relaxation. Pain reduces. The only way pain you can come out of it is by gently and friendly, and you give instruction to that pain region saying that, come on, relax, don't have pain, be at ease, be friend with that. Then you will come out of that pain. Yes, it is natural that your mind goes to the place where there is pain. And pain is the way that the body calls your attention. So therefore, it is once you know that it is the mind going there, and use the mind to give a relaxation instruction there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Raghuramji. I think you can now sum up.
How much time do I have? About 15 minutes?
Yeah, 15 minutes.
Okay. So, wonderful. Very nice presentation. Both the ideas are good. And I see that how Shastriji's ideas are influencing the way that you are presenting these ideas and thoughts. That's very nice. And another thing is that though the growing in the field of expansiveness and Naidhanyata, slowness, is the way that spirituality dawns on us. Whereas what the world gives us is a speed, what the world gives us is the focusing. Look at the way that you go to any education, any institution, anything like that. They insist on focusing, focusing, focusing. And focusing has its own advantages because that lot of things develop because of focusing. So therefore, we think that focusing is very productive. That's the reason we get hooked onto that focusing, because that it is productive. But then you can understand that the focusing's production, two things. One is that it's in the world outside, it's not inside. Anything that you focus is about the world outside. Inwardly, that you cannot focus. So focusing belongs to the world outside, achieves in the world outside. And then many times we are living in the world but not really focusing. We are not really looking for any achievement. It's a normal day-to-day activity. So therefore, we should be able to discern this idea that where you really need focusing, where you don't need focusing, so that we can really take out that particular aspect of it. And second thing is this slowness. A lot of ideas have come about the slowness. Slowness also means one more idea, that means to say, you know, what happens is that you have to be in its natural speed. That's what is the idea of slowness. You should not go below the natural speed. Like for example, your breath, your respiration is there. You sit for pranayama practice, you comfortably breathe. Don't try to make it too slow, because that too slow bounces back and then tries to affect you. Therefore, similarly, people say, oh, don't try to elongate too much of Om, because basically after ending the Om, that it bounces back with double the speed. So therefore, say it your own pace. So when the slowness is there, the slowness according to your own nature, that we need to accept it. And different people are different. Therefore, basically, different people's type of activity, style of activity is different. So what you need to look at your slowness is that not in comparison with the others. You look at your own self, your own state, and see that how that slowness you can bring about. These are the two things that are there. And dukkha, when we talk about dukkha, very important aspect is that every dukkha has these three qualities. One is the speed, and the other is the focusing, and third is the negativity. And this you can see as an example. A dukkha, one of the examples of dukkha is when you are anxious. Normal, simple day-to-day activity, when you are anxious, that's when we experience the dukkha. And freedom from anxiety is like freedom from dukkha. Dukkha nivritti is the way that you come out of anxiety. A very simple thing, that you are traveling and then suddenly you have all kinds of dukkha that is there, or anxiety, whether you'll be able to catch the bus or train or this and that, whether you are able to get all those things. You know, hundreds of such concerns will be there in our mind. So therefore, basically, you focus and focus and focus, because anything that you do only turns toward that. Like for example, you are driving on the road and suddenly you see the traffic jam. Oh my God, can I reach the destination or not? Because the traffic jam I held up. See, focus on that. Second thing is the speed. You unnecessarily increase the speed, where an ordinary speed plus about 5% of allowance that you give should have been all right. But then you give so much of speed. Every anxiety is associated with speed. And third thing is negativity. This negativity is something that we need to really come out of it. It's so easy to raise that negativity, not only that we have that, but others also add to that negativity, saying, I'm sure that you are not going to make it up. I'm sure that you will not be able to do that. This is the kind of dialogue I hear people talking about it. Don't ever plant the negative ideas. It's all right, even if you don't get it, doesn't matter. I say, take it easy so that it becomes easy. Try to work, try to put this effort on that. But don't think that it does not work or anything like that. Things will definitely happen. So these are the three aspects that are there. And another thing is the whole thrust of science, intellectual aspect of science is only on the negativity. It is said that how, in fact, the most wonderful intellect is somebody who can find fault with anything that you give it to him. That means negativity. It's so difficult to get out of that negativity because that the science teaches us, the world teaches us that being negative. Therefore, what we really need to do is to come out of that negativity, positivity. I always try to give my therapy participants who come, then when I counsel them, I tell them that early morning when you get up, you take up a notebook and then a notebook in that page. The morning that you put the date and say, what are all the night, or before going to bed in the night, you take a notebook and then before going to bed, write down what are the nice things that you have done, you have seen today, what are the nice things that happened today in the world outside or in your contact. Very simple thing. Like for example, you might say a child is helping another child to see that, that lace is tied. It's a very simple activity. But if you write down, if you acknowledge, then what happens is that your mind now knows to acknowledge positive things. And then not only that, because in the end of the day that you're going to write these things, therefore, during the day also, you're looking for what are the things which are positive. So this way, when you do it, naturally that your mind is habituated to see something which is positive. This is very important. If we do this, I think we are able to grow. We are able to put the sadhana in our day-to-day life. That is the idea Shastriji was always insisting on, that a life itself should become a sadhana. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Raghuramji. So like you said, so when we look at things positively, so is that what also is the path of spirituality?
Oh yes, the whole spirituality is to be able to see the world in a positive way. That's the idea. And this is what we have also said in the this thing. What is that? In the mantra that you say that Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Sarve Bhavantu Sukinaha, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu. That means to say, everywhere, let me see the positivity. That's it. Ma kashchit dukkha bhaveet.
Thank you. Thank you all for giving us a patient listening. So hope you got some insight on what is our true nature. What are we searching? Yeah, searching for our true nature. So what is our true nature? And then in Sukha Dukkha Pariksha, today we saw how to Dukkha Nivarana, how the sorrow can be reduced. Tomorrow we will see about Sukha Prapti, how we can get that joy. Yeah. So with that, let's end today's session with the Shanti Mantra. Arms together in Namaskara Mudra. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you all. Have a great day. We'll meet again tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you, Raghuramji.